guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock. It's a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A, which is where I answer all of your questions. First of all, thank you very much for subscribing and supporting the channel. Now, before we start with the questions, I have a really big announcement. On last week's Q&A, I kind of asked you guys a question, and I said, you know, a lot of people aren't feeling the marketing videos that I do on a Monday. They get very low figures compared to the rest of the channel. So what do you guys want me to do? Do you want me to carry on talking about marketing, or do you want me to not talk about marketing? And pretty much unanimously, other than a couple of people, everyone said, you know, let's do something else instead of marketing. Which I totally understand. You know, when I put the channel together, I wanted to have loads of different information. So whatever you are into in magic, you could get that information. And I'm a big fan of marketing. I love marketing. With my background's marketing. So that's something I wanted to include in the channel. But it seems that a lot of guys aren't feeling it, and that's absolutely fine. However, I'm still going to be doing it, but on a different YouTube channel. Starting January, I'm going to set up a new YouTube channel, and it's going to be for entertainers and performers, and it's going to be about marketing and sales and getting more gigs. So for the people that said, no, please keep the marketing, it's really cool, I'm actually going to be expanding on that. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of interviews with leading experts in marketing and business, as well as actually talking really in depth about marketing subjects rather than just doing it once a week. So I'll let you know when that channel is launching, but that's going to be January. And I'm replacing it on a Monday, starting this Monday coming up, with a new series. I sat down with Sarah and I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. And I'm starting a new series called 5 by 5. And this is a really unique idea. The whole idea is every Monday, I'm going to talk about 5 different subjects. And I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to talk about each subject. So it's going to be really quick and really snappy. And I've only got 5 minutes. There'll be a timer running at the bottom of the screen, and the camera will cut off when I get to the end of 5 minutes. And it could be anything. It could be a rant that I have to condense into 5 minutes. It could be talking about a download. It could be talking about a new trick. It could be a review. It could be me performing a trick. It could be highlighting an older trick. It could be me talking about, it could be me replying to people's comments on YouTube. It could be me examining a performance, not only of myself, but of other people. So I could be looking at other people's performances and doing a commentary track over the top and talking about what I like and what I don't like. It's a really varied, eclectic range of stuff, and it's going to be every Monday, and one Monday and the next Monday will be completely different. It just depends on what's going on a week-to-week basis. So I'm kicking it off with this Monday. I've already filmed it. There's some really great segments. I'm going to be talking about the illusionist debacle and the crap storm that they caused with going back to black. And that's one of the segments, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I'm analysing one of my performances. It's going to be great. So check that out. It's 9 o'clock on Monday. It's replacing Marketing for Magicians. It's called 5 by 5. But let's get on with today's questions. So the first question is from Sean McNulty. Hey, buddy. And the question is, how do you set up a parlour show for wedding gigs or other events as an addition? And that's a great question. That is something that I have always done. I have always tried to upsell people on having like a half an hour show in addition. Now, if you're talking specifically about weddings, when I pitch my services at a wedding, I have lots of different package options and lots of different things, because I actually offer big, large scale grand illusion shows and bridal productions and stuff like that. But if I was just wanting to offer like an upgrade of a parlour show, you have to think about you have to think about it from the bride and groom's point of view, not from your point of view. So when would be the best time for the bride and groom to have something like this? Because again, you know, going back to sort of a marketing thing, if you're going to be offering a service to clients, it's got to be about them, not about you. So what I would do is I would offer close-up magic. And you say, hey, I've got close-up magic as an option, and talk about the different places you can have close-up magic. So you can have close-up magic during the wedding breakfast, you can have close-up magic during the photos and the drinks reception, you can have, you know, all the different places you can have close-up magic. Then I would create a separate package specifically for a parlour show, or I'd call it a cabaret show, because a parlour show is really less than 30 people. And unless you're actually in the world of social distancing like we are at the moment, most people, you know, most weddings are going to be over 30 people. I'd call it a cabaret show. and have that as a separate option and say, hey, the first option you can book is close-up magic. This is what I do. I come round, I do 2 hours, I mix and mingle around the tables. It's going to do this, it's going to do this, it's going to do this. The second option is a cabaret show. And the cabaret show is a half an hour stage show. Now, most of my clients find the best time to have this is during the lull, during the wedding breakfast and the evening reception, because during that lull period, there's nothing really going on. Everyone's had the wedding breakfast, they're all full. The evening guests aren't turning up for about an hour, and the room's getting turned around for the evening reception. This is a great time to go into a separate room and perform a cabaret show to absolutely everyone and really give people the wow factor during that part of the wedding where traditionally there's not that much going on. So you actually offer the cabaret show as a second option, as a second package. And then what you can do, and this works really well at wedding fairs, is then you can say, but I've got a special offer right now. If you book my cabaret show, then I will throw the close-up magic package in for you for free. So, but in order to do that, you've got to price yourself accordingly. So let's say you charge £400 for 2 hours close-up magic, or £500, or whatever it is. Let's say you charge £400. Work out how much you want for your cabaret show. So let's say you've never done a cabaret show before, you want to play it safe, you want £300 for a cabaret show. So that means that £400 for your close-up and £300 for your cabaret show is £700. So I would tell people that your cabaret show is £700. So it would go like this. Hey, you can book close-up magic during the wedding breakfast, and that'll be £400. You can book a cabaret show during the lull, and that's £700, but I've got a special offer for you right now. If you book the cabaret show, I'll throw you the close-up magic package in completely free of charge. And then what'll happen is psychologically people will go, oh, well, we may as well have the cabaret show. And that sells people on having that a lot easier than if you just kind of price everything individually, if that kind of makes sense. So that's what I do. Hopefully that answers your question on that one. I see that you've got another question, which is, how would you structure your packages prices? That's kind of what I do. That's what I do. So I have options on my website. I think I have a bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. I think I have. And one is one person doing close-up magic. I think the silver is 2 people doing close-up magic. The third option is the cabaret show, and you get the one-person magic thrown in free. And then the final option is the illusion show. And if you have the illusion show, you get the 2 magicians thrown in free. So what I've just told you I do, that's how I structure my packages for weddings. And it works really, really well for me. Hope that helps. So the second question is by the Trixtaa. I think this is the first time you've actually asked a question on the channel. So thank you, buddy. What is the easiest real deceptive control a child with small hands can be taught, like Ryland? Very good question. I see that Justin Miller has answered the question as well in the comments down below, and he said the glide, and that is an excellent way of actually a child learning the control, because what you can do is you can have them pick a card, and you can just show them the card on the bottom of the deck, and then you can just use the glide to take that card away and bury it into the middle, and then the card's controlled to the bottom. Now, here's the thing. When I taught Ryland the glide, he couldn't bend his fingers around like that to pull that card back. He couldn't do that. His hands were so small, he couldn't actually pull that card back. So what he did, he can now do it properly because his hands are a bit bigger, but what he did is he came in like this, and he used the fingers of this hand to push that card back and then took the other one. Which is absolutely fine. It still works just as fine, but then you don't have to have big enough hands to wrap your fingers around. So the glide is a great way to do it. Justin's absolutely right there. Ryland, I taught him just a little finger break for a long time. So I taught him how to just hold a little finger break and put the cards on top and then do a running cut to the break. That was a nice easy one for him to learn. And then the other one that you can learn is just teach them a key card. Just depending on the routine. When I first taught Ryland magic, I didn't teach him any sleight of hand, but I wanted him to start getting used to actually performing tricks. So I taught him self-working tricks, and I taught him routines that required a card to be controlled. And what I did at the beginning is I taught him key cards. So I said to him, look at the bottom card, have the card returned and put it back into the deck, and then take the cards. I told him about running cuts and how the card will always stay next to it. And then I taught him to say, now let me just see if I can find your card. Was your card the 10 of spades? No, well, let me see if I can do something else. And in that action, the card's controlled to the top. So, and he did that for a while before he actually learns any proper sleight of hand. So any of those are absolutely fine. The key thing with teaching a child how to do magic is you have to really encourage them. You have to constantly just praise them and say, hey, you're doing really well. This is a great job. This is a great job. You don't want to make it horrible, like, oh, my dad's shouting at me all the time. You want to just make it fun. Magic is fun. But yeah, I hope that helps. Right. The next question, there's a series of questions here from Oliver Roach. So thank you very much, Oliver, for the questions. Let's see if I can take them one by one. I can't decide whether to become a mentalist or a magician. My personality character could go either way. I'm 20 years old. Could I come across as believable mentalist at 20? I don't want to claim I have powers. Just want to be entertaining through mentalism. There's an interview coming up on Talk Magic soon where I interview Steve Della. And Steve talks about this point because Steve he started off as a magician and he's now transitioned into mentalism. And he actually says that he didn't start to go down the route of mentalism until his mid-20s because he didn't think it was believable for a mentalist at the age of 20. He didn't think that people would find it believable. My opinion is it really just depends on how you're wanting to play it. You say that you don't want to pretend that you've got real powers. I think it's really important to decide how you want to actually come across as a mentalist. Do you want to go down the Derren Brown route with the influence and the psychological influencing and stuff like that? I mean, I'm not a mentalist, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I do mental magic. So I do magic that involves mind reading, and I'll say, hey, well, let me just try something. Let me just see if I can do something. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we'll give it a go. And if I'm challenged by it, oh my gosh, that was amazing. How did you do that? Can you read minds? I'll just say, no, not at all. Not at all. I've just been doing this for a very long time, and I know how you think, or something like that. Realistically, it's down to you. It's down to you and you alone. And this is a really important choice that you need to make because, if you're wanting to become a professional, because your next question, let me read the next question out. I'm a semi-professional magician and a professional illustrator. We'll talk about the next question in a minute, but so I can see you're semi-professional and I can imagine that you're thinking about becoming professional. This is a very important question that you need to ask yourself because it's going to dictate the route that everything takes from now on. Because if you decide that you're going to be a mentalist, that's going to affect your trick selection, that's going to affect your character, that's going to affect your marketing, the type of gigs that you can do and can't do. One thing that I will say, and Steve Della talks about this in the interview I do with him, is if you are billing yourself as a mentalist, it makes it a lot more difficult to get gigs in certain situations. Because if you are going all out as a mentalist and your website's, hey, I'm a mentalist, let's say somebody's booking a wedding. Most people don't book a wedding mentalist or a wedding mind reader. They book a wedding magician. So immediately, from a Googling point of view, you're missing out on a really big group of people if you're just out and out mentalism. So for me, and I'm not saying you can't make it work. I mean, look at people like Kennedy. He's killing it. Look at Mark Spellman. Look at Mark Paul. Look at all these people that are absolutely killing it doing mentalism, and it does work. I personally, and really it's a personal decision, but for me, I would be a magician because it opens more doors. And then there's no reason why you can't transition to mentalism down the line, like Steve Della did. I know a lot of people, it seems that a lot of illusionists, when they decide to pack up the illusionist thing, they tend to switch to mentalism and they do a lot of stage mentalism. So it doesn't mean that you can't move to mentalism later on. But for now, if you're wanting to get as much work as possible, especially in the middle of a pandemic, I would consider billing yourself as a magician that does mental magic. So the next question by Oliver Roach, I alluded to this earlier on, is I'm a semi-professional magician and a professional illustrator. Any magic ideas for artistic magic tricks or presentations? Any advice on how to incorporate being an artist into my magic, or should I incorporate it at all? And again, that's a very good question. And again, unfortunately, it's a very personal decision. I personally like to keep things very, very separate. So you know that I run a kids entertainment company called Nonstop Kids Entertainment, and I also run a sort of an entertainment company for magicians, for corporate events and weddings and stuff called Slightly Unusual. Those were set up as two separate websites right from the very beginning, because I didn't want them to encroach on each other. Because my attitude is, if somebody's looking for a corporate magician and they see somebody doing kids' parties, they're probably going to decide, rightfully or wrongfully, that that person's not right for their event. And likewise, somebody who's looking for a kid's birthday party, who sees somebody standing on stage at big conferences, they might think that that person's out of their league. So I kept it separate for a reason. Now, it depends on, you say you're an illustrator, you say you're a magician. You could combine those. I mean, I can't remember who did it. An amazing UK magician. He did the gallows book test. Can't remember, I'll put his name down below. But he created a deck of cards, and each one has a drawing that he's done on them. And he's taken, these amazing concepts, this amazing art that he's created, and he's turned it into a deck of playing cards. So he's actually embraced it. And there are lots of tricks that you could do. And there's lots of ways that you could weave the two things together if you wanted to. But the question is, do you want to? Do you think that billing yourself as an illustrator that also does magic will help you as an illustrator? Or will somebody who's looking for an illustrator just want somebody who's focused on illustrating? If somebody's looking for a magician, will they want somebody who's just focused on magic and not a part-time magician and a part-time illustrator? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Now, as I say, lots of people have done it. So you look at John Gustafaro, who I interviewed on this channel. He openly goes out and tells people, I'm a singer, I'm a musician, I'm a magician, and his website shows that. He shows all the different things he does and all the different strings to the bow that he does. So it obviously works. The question is, again, it's a very personal thing. And in many ways, I do that as well. I'm a motivational speaker. I do a lot of motivational talking and business talks, and I've spoken at business events all over the world. And I'm also a magician. And I actually bill myself as the UK's #1 motivational magician. And I actually but when I do it, I tie the magic into my speaking on stage. So when I'm speaking on stage, I'm incorporating tricks into what I'm saying. So it's kind of business advice, and the tricks are kind of the icing on the cake. So it kind of makes sense. I've made it work for me. And I think ultimately, that's what you need to decide. Can you make this work for you? And you really need to decide, what do you want to be? Do you want to be an illustrator? Do you want to be a magician? Do you want to be both? And if you do want to be both, you need to ask yourself a question as to, what's the best way to approach that? But in terms of weaving the two together, absolutely. There's lots of tricks that you can do where you can weave those things together. Just off the top of my head, you could have a flash pad, and you could be drawing something on there, a very quick drawing of a celebrity or something, and light it, and you've got another picture of a celebrity palmed, and you light it, and it turns into a real celebrity. And then on stage, you've got illusions like Graffiti Girl, which is an amazing illusion where you've got a big sheet of paper, you draw a girl, and then the girl comes bursting out of the picture. There's lots of different routines that combine art and magic. Have a look at Oliver Tabor. Really great guy. And his stage act, or at least it was years ago, I don't know if he's changed it now, but his stage act was all about music. It was all about him as a musician, and he was doing really complicated manipulation, but it was all based around music. And I remember watching it live a couple of times, and it was amazing. And he finishes by having a giant cello thing appear on stage out of nowhere. It's really good. It's really good. So there's an example of somebody who's actually embraced that concept. So ultimately, it's up to you. It can be done. You just need to ask yourself the question as whether that's the wisest thing to do from a business point of view. Okay, one final question by Oliver Roach. The final question is, I've been reading Maximum Entertainment by Ken Webber, and he believes that combining mentalism and magic just makes the mentalism weaker, turns mentalism into a trick / mental magic. Do you agree? Is it right or wrong to be both a magician and a mentalist? And yeah, you know what? I do agree. This is something that myself, and again, I'll bring up Steve Deller. This is something myself and Steve Deller have talked about. If you are billing yourself, and again, it depends on what you're billing yourself as, but if you're billing yourself as a mentalist and you have these mentalism powers and you have the ability to extract information out of someone's head, whether it be through psychological means or whether it be from mind reading, whatever the case may be, if you've got the ability to do that, then surely producing a sponge ball from behind someone's ear is trivializing that ability. If you could really read minds, if you could really really read minds, and you could actually do that, you're Professor X, you could really read minds, would you be walking around doing simple parlour tricks and making coins jump from one place to another? No, you wouldn't. Why would you bother learning stuff like that when you could literally just walk up to someone and extract the information out of their head? So I totally agree with you on that. My attitude is, I don't want people to believe that I've got, and again, this comes down to characterization, but I don't want people to believe that I've got unworldly powers and that I can actually read people's minds. But that's a choice that I've made as a character. So I can do mental magic and say, hey, I'm going to try and do something. Let me see if I can guess the PIN code to your phone. Let me see if I can, concentrate. I'm going to make a prediction right now. This is a prediction of something that's going to happen. I can do that. But I can do it in my character because I'm not trying to get people to believe that I can actually do this. I openly say to people that I'm a magician and I cheat for a living. It's part of my opener when I walk up to people in a crowd. And also, I do stage shows. I do illusion shows, and I do big box illusion shows, and I do, I do comedy magic. So it wouldn't make sense if somebody had seen me putting a girl in a box and sawing them in half. Why would I be doing that? Again, it comes back to that. Why would I be putting a girl in the box and making them disappear when I can just look out into the audience and read somebody's mind? So but I do mind reading in my show. For the finale of my cabaret show, I use No Brainer, where I predict a blind date. It's an amazing routine. But I do it very tongue-in-cheek. I do it in a very comedy way. So it's about knowing what your character is. Now, when myself and Steve do our show together, we've got a show called Phantasmagoria, and when we do a show together, it's called Magic. The concept is magic versus mentalism. So I come out and introduce myself as a magician. He comes out and introduces himself as a mentalist, and then I do classic magic tricks, some really powerful magic tricks. He does classic mentalism tricks, and you know how good Steve Deller is. He's awesome. And then at the end, we have the audience decide who's the winner. And it's done in a very legitimate way. We actually get them to score us and decide who wins. And Steve's already predicted who wins and, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. Mentalism always wins. Mentalism always wins. Now, I'm not a bad performer. I'm going out doing incredibly strong magic, but he's going out doing incredibly strong mentalism. Mentalism always wins. So maybe that tells you something. Maybe people are more into mentalism than they are into magic. I don't know. There's certainly less people doing it. I don't know. But yes, if you are billing yourself as a mentalist and you are billing yourself as somebody who can read minds, then I think you should stay away from magic. Having said that, I could talk about this subject for hours. Having said that, you look at Max Maven. You look at Max Maven. Max Maven does magic tricks, even though he's like the quintessential mentalist. He is the quintessential mentalist, but he does magic tricks. Look at Pocket Nightmare, where, he puts his hand in his pocket and he gets them to think of a card, and he says, well, it's in my pocket. That's not mentalism. He's not telling people he's got the powers to teleport a card into his pocket. That's a magic trick. So I don't know. I personally think that if you're a mentalist, you should stick to mentalism. And I think if you're a magician, you should stick to mental magic that, not hardcore mentalism. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. You asked the question. What do you think? I want to know. Okay, so the next question is by Mr. Harmon. He's back. Hello, Mr. Harmon. A couple of questions here from you. And the first is, who is your favourite magic dealer? You know what? I love all magic dealers. I've got a soft spot in my heart for Penguin. I really have got a soft spot in my heart for Penguin. They've always been really good, both from a customer service point of view and that whole operation. I love the fact that when you order something off them, they send you a video of it being packed. It's just so cool. I'm a big fan of Vanishing Ink, mainly because I'm a massive fan of Andy Gladwin and Josh J. I think those two work wonders, and their Masterclass series is great. They're always innovating. They're always coming up with something new. Everybody knows that Ryland loves Alakazam, but I like Alakazam as well. I think that World Magic Shop have scaled back massively on what they do these days, and it's really just the odd product that they bring out. But when Dave Penn brings out a product, it's generally a really good product. So I've got a soft spot in my heart for World Magic Shop as well. Big Blind Media are great. I've always loved the Big Blind Media stuff. You know what? I love all of them. There are some dodgy magic dealers. There are some that pull some really weird stunts, illusionist. But generally as a rule, I like all magic dealers. As long as they're honest and they say what they're going to do and they deliver the goods and they don't rip you off, then I'm good with them. But yeah, my favourites I think are Penguin, Alakazam, and Vanishing Ink. But I do like all magic dealers. So the next question by Mr. Harmon is, how can you be a more engaging performer? And I think that's a great question, by the way, mate. I think the way that you become an engaging performer is by becoming interesting. And what I mean by that is I see so many performers, new performers, and I cringe when I see them. They go up to, I've seen them do close-up, and I've seen them at magic conventions and magic competitions, and it's like, hey, pick a card. And it's almost like they're not looking at the audience, they're not engaging with the audience. It's kind of the thing that Dynamo and David Blaine do, but they pull it off. And I think a lot of people try to emulate that style, but there's only certain types of people that can do that style successfully. I think the most important thing is to be engaging. You need to be engaging. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you need to learn about eye contact. You need to learn about people. So, I think it's more important for a magician to read a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People than it is to read another magic book, because that book will teach you more about performing. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to embrace the art of performing. When I first got into magic and I realized I wanted to be a professional magician, I studied performing. I studied it. I wrote books. Wish I wrote books today. I read books after books after books on it, and I went to lessons about vocal projection and stuff like that, and eye contact and body language and understanding how to fill a stage. I think this sort of stuff is very, very important, both for a close-up performer and a stage performer. You need to have it. You've met those people where they start speaking and you're captivated. You listen to every word they say because they're just interesting. You need to be one of those people. You also need to be kind of really well read. You need to be one of those people that, you need to be able to, especially in close-up, you need to be able to hold a conversation on pretty much any subject. And if you don't know something about the subject, try and find out something about it. I remember I did a gig, about 4 years ago for a really big company that supplies diggers and stuff like that near me. And they told me beforehand, it was my first gig there, and they told me beforehand it was going to be people in that industry. So I spent like a couple of days just researching into what it is that they did, a little bit about the industry. I learned some buzzwords, I learned some key phrases. And when I went in there, it was all directors of different companies. They were all super impressed that I could hold a conversation with them. And, they'd say something and I'd reply to it. And, afterwards the client came to me and they went, oh, you were great. We've had other magicians before, but you really kind of understood the audience, and they've booked me every single time since. And that's that one thing that I do if I'm going into a situation where I'm going into a group of people and I know there's a particular thing that they're going to be talking about, I try to find out a little bit about that subject. So really two things. One, learn about body language, learn about eye contact, learn about vocal projection, learn about that sort of thing. It's all very, very important. And then just become very well read. Buy some books on how to win friends and influence people. Ryland is a perfect example. For the last year, Ryland's had acting lessons, and he's having them every week at the moment over Zoom, acting lessons and performance lessons, because he turned around to me and he said, I want to be a magician. I'm like, cool, man, I can teach you how to be a magician, but I'm not the person to teach you how to be a performer. Although I can teach you this, I think we need to get professional help in. And so we did, and he grows as a performer every single day, and I think that's something that you should do. So if you want to be engaging, you need to invest in it. You need to be invested in making that happen. So the next question, are there any good devices that can switch cards? Double lift? Top change? I don't know. It depends on, it's really difficult. It depends on the context. A lot of the time, I just use sleight of hand to switch one card. And even if, it doesn't matter what the situation is. Are you talking about you've got a deck in play? Because you've got a deck in play, obviously you've got top changes, you've got second deals, you've got double lifts. But I remember a really old card move that I used to use years ago. Let's say you want to switch the King of Hearts to the King of Spades. You bottom palm the one card and you have it in left hand bottom palm. You take this card here that you're wanting to switch and you're showing it, and then in the action of saying, can you hold your hand out for me, you just do that and drop it into their hand, and you end up with the card switched and that in right hand classic palm. I don't think there's a situation really when you need to actually have a device to switch cards, unless it's a deck, and that's a different thing. But for an individual card, I think you can do it with sleight of hand, even if there's not a deck in play. I remember years ago, Mark Mason from JB Magic, he brought out a thing called a switcheroo. Any old school magicians, let me know if you remember the switcheroo. It was a device that you put in your top pocket, and the whole idea is that as you put a card into your top pocket, it activated the device, and as it went down, it pushed the other one up. And you could do it with a packet of up to 4 cards. So you could put 4 cards and say, look, and it held them above the pocket so they didn't sink in. So, you know, you could just say, let me just pop that there for a minute. And that was really clever. That was a really nice way of doing it. I stopped using it after a year or so because I realised I could do the same thing just by switching it in my pocket as I pull it up. But that was a really nice idea. But yeah, in answer to your question, how do you switch a card? I just think about different sleight of hand ways of doing it. I don't think you need a gimmick to do that. I think that there's better ways of doing it. And that's what it's all about. It's about simplicity. Simplicity. What's the simplest way to achieve the effect that you're wanting to achieve? Now, simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. And in this case, you know, switching one card for another from palm to palm, it's not easy, but it's the most direct way of doing it. So the next question is again by Mr. Harmon, and the question is, if you mess up a card trick, what should you do? I think the ultimate answer to this is don't mess it up, dude. You need to be able to, you know, I think it's really important to understand that as a magician, you should always have outs. You should never be in a situation where you have messed up a trick. So, you know, let's just say, for example, that the card's lost in the deck. Oh my gosh, and you've genuinely lost the card. You're doing it, you know it's meant to be on top of the deck, for example, and it's lost and you have no idea what it was because you've lost the control. What do? Well, there's lots of different outs that you can learn, and part of becoming more experienced as a magician is understanding that all these different outs. So, and that really comes down to jazzing. You know, jazzing is the art of just literally making it up as you go. So you've got a deck of cards and you don't even have a memorized deck. You've just got a regular deck and you're just saying to people, name a card. And you're jazzing your way to finding that card, you know, in various different ways. But you need to analyze every single trick you do. If you have a card trick that is good enough that you consider performing it, whether it's performing it professionally or performing it for friends and family, if you've got a trick that you think is good enough for you to perform, what you have to do is you have to go through that trick and you have to work out all of the different ways that this trick can go wrong and write them down on a piece of paper. How can this trick go wrong? And then what you need to do is you need to come up with a solution for each one of these. So if I lose the card in the deck, what am I going to do in that scenario? If this happens, what am I going to do here? If this happens, what am I going to do here? And then what you do is you then have the solution for anything that could possibly happen. Because here's the thing, when you are stressed, you are never going to make great decisions. It's just a fact. When you're stressed, you're never going to make great decisions. And when a trick has gone wrong, that is the height of stress. I've seen magicians sweat bullets when they're in the middle of a performance and the trick's gone wrong. They're sweating bullets. This is not the time to start trying to decide what to do. But if you already have a solution to this, you don't panic. You go, well, I know what to do here because I've done this before. I've worked this out. I need to do this. And you go into that. Instead of going down the route you were going, you veer off to the right or to the left and you go into a different situation, but it's already a pre-planned journey. So you need to look at every single trick and you need to work out what could possibly go wrong and you need to fix it. And if somebody calls you out, let's say that you've palmed a card. And let's just say you've palmed a card and they grabbed your wrist and said, hey, you've got the card in your hand. You know, at the end of the day, it's just magic, you know, or at least for me it is. The way I perform, I don't let people think it's real. You know, it's my attitude is, hey, I'm a professional magician. I lie, cheat and steal for a living. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to cheat you right in front of your face. So if they see me do that, I'm going, yes, dude, you caught it. I promise you won't catch it this time. I promise you won't catch it this time. Right, okay. Oh, did you not catch that time? I thought you said you were going to catch it. And, you know, you can kind of say, you see, it's in my pocket. So you need to be about 5 or 6 moves ahead of the audience. So when they're watching something, you're thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. So really, the answer to this, what do you do if you mess up a card trick, is practice, 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 work out outs, and try to get yourself into a situation where you're never going to mess the card trick up. And if you do, just throw your hands in the air and go, oh, well, you know, it's not real magic. And then just move on and show them something else that's going to blow them away 20 times harder. Okay, so Gabriel Gray has said, where would you recommend someone who's interested in coin magic to turn to after reading through Bobo's? I'm looking more forward, but I'm a little intimidated by Roth's Expert Coin Magic. Well, first of all, don't be intimidated. There's some stuff in there that's nice and easy. Roth is a very good place to go to next. But you know what? I'd look into some DVDs or some downloads. And what I would do, and I've said this before on the channel, and I will say it again till I'm blue in the face, get Michael and Mars Easy to Master Money Series. Michael and Mars Easy to Master Money Series is brilliant. It teaches you so many awesome ways of learning coin magic, and he's taken classics from lots of different creators and he's brought it together into one great series of tricks. And you'll learn David Roth's hanging coins. You'll learn Daryl's Cross of India. You'll learn so many different things, so many awesome coin tricks, coins through table, various different versions of coins across, expansion of texture, so many different ones. It's a great learning resource. I would go with Michael and Mars Easy to Master Money Series. I know it's a little bit older, but it still stands really, really strong in today's market. And Michael and Mars are a great teacher. And if you want to go for another book, I would go for either David Roth's Expert Coin Magic or Michael Rubenstein's new book, which is absolutely phenomenal. And if you want to find more about that, check out Michael Rubenstein's interview on the channel, because he talks about that book and he actually performs a couple of the routines from it. Both of those books are great, but I'd head to Michael and Mars as a download first of all. Okay, so that's it. Now, I should point out that I have had a couple of other questions that I'm going to hold off on. Magic Elliot asked me a question about magicians from the past, and Steve Saskamoo has asked me a question about deck switches. I think those two questions would be perfect for my series on a Monday that I talked about at the beginning of this video, 5x5. So I'm going to put those on, not this Monday coming because I've already filmed it, but the following Monday, I'm going to answer both of your questions on 5x5 because I think it needs longer than a couple of minutes, and I'd like to actually perform a few things and show you examples of it. So yeah, both of your questions I'm going to get to. Watch out for 5x5, not this Monday, the next Monday. Outside of that, guys, thank you very much for an amazing Q&A. Lots of questions this week. You know, I can only do the Q&A if you guys ask questions. If you don't ask questions, I'm just sitting here on a piece of paper just going, hi, how you doing? Hope you're having a good weekend. So please ask more questions down below. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video. All that stuff really helps. And then more importantly, 9 o'clock tomorrow, I want you to check out 5x5. It's a brand new thing. It took me a long time to edit. I want to know what you think. So tune in. Let me know in the comments on Monday what you think of 5x5. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Have an amazing Sunday. My name's Craig from Magic TV.